Everyone, welcome to the Aldebaran Psychic Channel. For those of you who have never met us before, we're Sara and Jason from Meta Lighthouse. Meta Lighthouse is a love-based organization founded by psychics and scientists working together to create social change through empathy. So Jason and I are in contact with a group of very highly intelligent guides who call themselves the Guardians of Light. And we've been having conversations with the Guardians since 2012, and they've given us a lot of pertinent information for humanity to help them through this incredible shift that we're all experiencing, particularly for empaths. And we've created an 8-step program to help them understand who they are and why they incarnated during this critical time. One of the ways the Guardians want to help make this shift easier for humanity is to dispel some of the myths that have held humans in bondage for so long, particularly Christians. And today is the first episode in a series called Dispelling the Myths. Our topic of discussion today is debunking the notion that metaphysics is evil. And, growing up in a Christian home, I thought that metaphysics was evil, for sure. I was told that anything to do with psychics, the New Age, the occult, the tarot, all of it was of the devil. And here I was having extraordinary experiences myself and having communications with guides through telepathy, yet I was told that it was evil. So I never talked about it with anybody in my family. I didn't talk about it with friends. I was really afraid of it. So it was a real conundrum for me. So today, Jason and I are coming from that perspective because I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who might feel the same way. So we want to clear up some of the misunderstandings about what it means to be psychic. What does channeling mean? And we're going to start with that subject. So Jason, from your perspective, as a channeler, what does it mean to be a channeler? What does it mean to channel information?
That's a good question. Channeler. So a channeler is essentially another word for a psychic who uses a part of their gift, which is called Clairaudience, which is able to hear and, tap into other dimensions or realms where there is kinetic energy and other beings. So you're able to hear. The evidence of channelers would be most of the religious texts in the world, whether it's a Bible, a Quran, you pick where you want to go. But when you look through it, you say, well, these people hear God and they're translating. Well, what does that mean? They're just very gifted folks that had clairaudio and that were utilizing their psychic ability to be able to be in contact with higher beings or what some would interpret as angels, so that's channeling.
And that really helped me as a Christian come to terms with my abilities because I couldn't understand it at all. To know that, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were all channeling, and they were in contact with angelic guides, just like we are. So that really made it feel safer for me as a Christian to talk about this subject. And it really helped clear up a lot of confusion and feelings of shame around what, being psychic is all about. So before we go into too much more about that, I think that we should talk to our viewers about who the Guardians of Light are. Jason, do you want to, I think that they would like to know who they are and where they come from and why they're here.
The particular Guardians of Light, or what we call our guides or our friends, are beings that come from the upper heavens or upper areas, such as the location would be 2 planets that are near Aldebaran, which is in the eye of Taurus, the constellation of Taurus, which is also known as the all-seeing eye. So that sheds light on where the eye comes from. The eye is from that area. And that's the upper heavens. So our guides are from Aldebaran. It's actually there's a planet off of Aldebaran, but essentially we call them from Aldebaran. There are other beings that we've talked to that are their neighbors that are pleiadian.
And there are other guides that we work with too, but they all call themselves the guardians of light. And they really don't want a whole lot of attention on them, but they have some really important information and technology to help humanity evolve out of this, terrible situation that we're in. So let's talk about evolution. Growing up, like I said, as a Christian, I keep referring to my background because there was so much negativity around that word evolution. And, we were taught not to believe in it at all. So do you want to explain to our viewers what evolution means from the standpoint of the Guardians?
We were taught that evolution is growth, and it's, some examples of evolution for humanity would be such as fire, going from horse and buggy to car to plane. These are evolutional steps. The problem is that they explained to us that there hasn't been a lot of evolution on a timeline for humanity because they've been stalled or purposely fed disinformation to keep very few benefiting and the rest not. So evolution is followed by action and its growth. It does not have anything to do with apes, other species of beings, and morphing into a human. That is disinformation, strategically measured to cause division and confusion. We were told and are told that humanity is extremely intelligent. We are in the lower heavens and it's mirrored to the upper heavens. So they are basically us, but very far into the future with evolution. They've evolved so much.
So back in 2012, we were told that the supersonic bell had sounded, and it was an alarm that the Earth was giving off to let other civilizations know that the Earth was in trouble. And we were facing cataclysms and all kinds of horrible things as a species if we didn't evolve. So that's why they visited us specifically in 2012 to show that humanity was in trouble.
And I may add too, because you might say, well, why would these beings come to you? Why wouldn't they come to the government or high-level medical people if they have such great technology? And the simple answer to that is a lot of people that are contacted, the contact starts very young. And these same guides, although made themselves apparent to us at 2012, were really with us all along. And it was a learning process. And anytime there's contactees, it's because of their psychic abilities. Whether it's very strong or not that strong, higher intelligence that has abilities to, fly through black holes and manipulate space and time, they're not going to talk to high-level medical people or high-level government people or politicians or even celebrities necessarily, because there's a lot of compromised people and there's a lot of satanic webbing that has gone through most of the systems here. So they're going to work with psychic people or people that are gifted. And why do they want that? Because we're going to also reveal that psychic ability is genetic. It has to do with pineal glands and two other areas in the brain. And that's something that will also come out at some point in time. It's not evil. It's not dark. It's not satanic. Evil is as evil does. How do you recognize evil? By the fruits of its labor. Here we are as psychics trying to heal, trying to help, trying to guide with your abilities that you are heightened with clairaudio and clairvoyancy, and you're using it to guide and help others. So that right there is not evil. And then
Well, I was just going to say a missing ingredient or an important ingredient is empathy. So, it really takes a lot of compassion for us to be able to evolve. So, psychics in general have a lot of empathy. So that's part of the reason why we were contacted, and we were able to gather empaths together and create this program to help them understand, again, like I said, who they are and why they incarnated right now. It's because of the empathy, and that's what we need right now as a species. We need to come together and embrace one another with compassion in order to evolve and survive as a species. Getting back to the word psychic, growing up having psychic abilities, yet the fear of the word psychic really kept me from exploring it. And I mean, I couldn't even, up until maybe 10 years ago, go into a New Age bookstore or look at the tarot. I thought it was beautiful, yet it was really scary. So, I had my first tarot reading with Jason, and it took me a long time to make that appointment, again, because of that disinformation that I was fed. It was propaganda. But it wasn't like he was telling me my future at that reading. He just laid the cards out and showed me, or helped me make some really good decisions at a very important crossroads in my life. Do you want to talk a little bit about the tarot and why it's, been looked at as an implement of, the devil rather than a tool to be used to help people?
Sure. The tarot basically is a language. It's just a language. That's all it is. And the cards of themselves are a merger, if you will. It's a 78 card deck. Bicycle playing cards, casino cards are derivative of tarot. So that's where they come from. Tarot is a language. It's comprised of 78 cards. 22 of them are metaphysical cards or talk about the higher upper heavens. And the 56 cards talk about the lower heavens, which is earth. So in the higher heavens, there's 22 angels, or major arcanas they're known as, which are guides, beings. And so when you're able to use your psychic ability and work with a tarot deck, which is deciphering the language of the upper heavens and the lower heavens, you're able to read sentences that form paragraphs that reveal information in the lower heavens, which is earth, air, fire, and water, which is money, love, career, struggles, and the upper heavens, which are the celestial influences. There is a devil card, there is a God card. I mean, if you have all that is, it's all in the cards, not to make a pun, but it's true, then you're going to have aspects and information of knowledge. And all knowledge is of all things. So it's labeled evil for the simple reason that the church or the institutions that, again, have been infiltrated with selfish gains. So everything you look at is a duality. So the church, you don't see the hidden aspects or the hidden people. But what they would do is propagate fear. And it hasn't changed much in 2,000 years. And they always have to have someone to blame to keep them in business. Well, I'm going to blame the fortune tellers or the people that are, look, they're taking our flock. If you can go to a psychic, a real psychic, and sit down and get real answers, what does that mean for the psychotherapist? What does that mean for the preacher or the priest? It means that potentially they might be out of business. So what they do is they see the local people going to the herbalist who lives on a hill somewhere, who can use the cards to help people and use their herbs to heal people. They didn't want that. So they ostracized a certain group. They took symbols and perverted them and attached inaccurate information or disinformation to keep people in fear, which is the same thing that's done today. You just turn on your local TV news station. So this is part of what the why we're dispelling myths, and why we're going to take a lot of the woo-woo out of it, a lot of the boogeyman out of it, because he never belonged there to begin with.
Well, our organization is called Meta Lighthouse, which is short for Metaphysical Lighthouse. And I know a lot of people don't understand what metaphysics means. And it's scary to some people too. So why don't we shed light on what metaphysics means and why on earth would scientists want to work with people in the metaphysical field?
That's a good question, and that's a lot to take on, but I'll try to simplify it. And it's metaphysics is beyond physics, so it's beyond the sight. So right away, you're entering the spirit realm where psychics have access to. You know, you've heard of Akashic records and things that are in another realm. Well, metaphysics is that realm. It's beyond physics. So by the mere merger, which our guides are partly responsible for bringing us all together, but the mere merger of real science, when we say we work with scientists, we mean real bona fide scientists in the world that do amazing scientific work. By taking science and metaphysics, which is science, and blending them together, you're able to now find the hidden attributes to physics. So the more that you're working in the metaphysics and bridging it into the physics, of course through science, which is facts and trial and error, you're able to find the mysteries that are the areas that stop physics from going forward. That periodic table, how do you make it grow? There's a lot more things out there. Well, the way to do it is conjoining metaphysics with physics. By doing that, these will be the periodic table as part of the map, if you will, of evolution. Every time there's a piece put on there, it's something showing evidence of evolution, which is work, which is growth. So it's basically just the hidden realm, being part of the physical realm.
So some aspects of metaphysics that scared me were some of the symbols. In particular, the pentagram. And I know that the pentagram appears in the tarot deck. It's also called a pentacle or the coin card. Do you want to shed light or help me shed light on what the pentagram means? Because I think that's very confusing to a lot of people.
Well, it sure is. I mean, they've attached so many disinformation to these signs and symbols. They just put it right in the area of witchcraft. And if you've never been exposed to that, that in of itself is a scary thing to embrace because of, again, the propaganda and the disinformation. So right away, that's what somebody thinks about when they see the pentagram. When the truth of the matter is the so-called witches just adopted it because they realized the truth of what the symbol meant. And the symbol basically, in the tarot deck, symbolizes the earth, right? It's the earth suit. It's one of the elements. And earth also in the tarot symbolizes the coin, which is money. So when you're dealing with coins or pentagrams or pentacles, you're really talking about earth things and you're talking about finance usually. Now, what it means more than that is it also is a symbol of the makeup of man and woman, right? When you look at a star, you have the head, you have the two arms, you have the legs. So it's showing you, and then you have the circle around it, which is a symbol of, all that is for man and woman. And what is all that is? It's the elements of earth, air, fire, and water.
And spirit.
So
that would be the top.
Mm-hmm. Right? So water is your emotions, your intuition, right? Which is a big part of humanity, right? It makes up a big part of who you are. Some of us are much more emotional than others, but we all got it. Some are elements of fire, which is that sheer strength and that, desire, that, to reach for the inner parts of you. And then there's earth, air, which is, spirit, the things that are in the ethers, the areas that are going to drive your consciousness, your third eye, to make you seek of whether it's religious, spirituality, whatever it is. It's that innate drive to say, even if you're not believing and you're coming from an agnostic point, it's still something.
and it's how you communicate with other people and express your creativity. So I think of the air sign as that as well. I was so relieved when I learned, or I was given the truth about these symbols and about metaphysics and about being psychic, about channeling and that sort of thing. And I know other people are too. So we're really happy to be putting out these videos about, some of these myths we just wanted to dispel and shed light on. Another symbol that I would like to talk about today is the all-seeing eye that you see in the dollar bill. It has a negative connotation for a lot of people. They think about the Illuminati. But when we first started our organization 7 or 8 years ago, we had a logo of a lighthouse with an eye on top, and it was feminine and had rainbow colors and very beautiful. So we see it in a different way. Can we shed light on what the all-seeing eye means?
Sure. I mean, the eye of providence, or the all-seeing eye, is an attribute of source, and, as she mentioned, Illuminati or other forces or people, there's certain, as in every walk of life, there are certain people that take a good thing. This is how good things go bad, right? They pervert the whole symbolism of the meaning of things. So you'll see on a dollar bill a pyramid and an eye. So the truth of the pyramid and the eye was at a better time in the development of humanity. It was prior to the flood. But in the present day of satanic regime, they've perverted it. They don't talk about, they take the pyramid, and instead of teaching about free energy and interrelations between as above and below, and the directions of where the upper heavens are, and the healing chambers within, and the sound and vibratory notes that could literally put you in another dimension, right? What they do is they perverted it and looked at a totalitarian system where, instead of using it what it was really for, so when you see people doing this, you have to ask yourself, are they talking about free energy and about God's love over humanity and acceptance of all those things? Because if you have an eye in a pyramid, that's what it should mean. Or is it that you're embracing a totalitarian system where they've perverted God's work? And there's a bottom level pyramid, and then another level and another level till you get up to the very few. That's not what the true meaning of the pyramid is. Those are dark ways. That's why we want to dispel some of the myths, because some of the dark forces perverted by conquering God's symbols and wonderful things that the angels and guides have given to humanity all along. People see a spiral symbol and they associate even horrendous crimes to it. And then they put it out in the internet that this is an Illuminati symbol and it's pedophilia and it's evil. But this is perversion, and I don't understand all that as far as, why those things do that. But the reality is the spiral is the infinite possibilities of all that is. And when you talk about stargates and interdimensional travel, or traveling beyond here, it's that spiral that you're going to be accessing to even move the energy.
Well, just look at the way galaxies move. It's a spiral. You look at the golden ratio. That's a spiral.
Right.
Even the tiniest little flower has that spiral in it.
Right.
So how could you think that something like that is evil? That's a seed of creation. And we all have that power within us. So, it's just evidence that metaphysics or symbols, things that are intended to be used for the good of humanity and for evolutionary growth, can be twisted and used for destruction.
And here's another thing to add to that when you look at symbols, because symbols, you might, for those that don't understand this, you might go into the internet and you might hear things that say, well, symbols is bad. Symbols is their downfall. Symbols is this. But the reality is, throughout the dawn of history, before even language was designed, we had symbols. And what's the best way to keep information? Such as if libraries were burned down with all the books, what's left? The symbols. And those that can read the symbols can redo the history. Sometimes it's hard it's easier to leave you a symbol with knowledge that's etched in architect or that's placed in certain strategic placements, because at least this will stand the test of time.
And it breaks barriers of language, you know, and even a small child can understand a symbol, because
Right.
it's really kind of beyond language, isn't it?
Well, yes.
It's not, it shouldn't have any words attached to it necessarily. It's just a truth, you know, etched in stone. I like that.
Right.
So I just want to see if there was any other thing that I had written down for today to talk about, other than we talked about the word psychic. We talked about channeling. We talked about the pentagram. We talked about evolution. And we talked about the tarot. And I think we're going to leave it at that for this episode today. But we want to invite you back to our next episode of Dispelling the Myths, when we can talk about other symbols and other aspects of the metaphysics, because it's a subject that we could just talk about on and on and on. And we can also talk more about the guidance that we get from the guardians of light. So we just want to thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.